How has my week been from an author standpoint? Okay, I take that back. It's not been bad, but it's not been good. It's been better than it has been for the last several months. It's kind of a gray area. This whole 2025 has been really kind of not the best year for creative writing for me personally. I see. I say that I'm immediately like, well, I did make that rough draft of that one book that I didn't anticipate writing. It just kind of fell out. Now it's 75,000 words long that I pumped out in like that first week of January. They just kind of, bleh, there it is. And I also finally pumped out that contemporary folk horror Girl Inherits a Haunted House story that's been in my head for literal years. And I did kind of have an outline of that book too, that one trilogy that I kind of abandoned. So I know in all, it's not been the worst year I've had creatively. It kind of feels like it, but then when I kind of, number out the things that I've done, it's not been bad. I've had a lot of trouble sticking with one project. I feel like I really bounced around the different projects that I have going on, my different uh works in progress, my WIPs, my WIPs, if you will. Overall, it's been okay considering, everything. But I've had a lot of trouble like trying like going through all of my works in progress and trying to find one to latch onto, to try to find one that sticks out to me, that I can, sink my teeth into, just really work on and just dive into and lose myself in. That has been the hard part because none of them, I'm sorry, I just saw my microphone kind of dancing because I'm holding it in my hand because I'm not actually sitting at my desk because we sprayed for bugs this past weekend and someone, wasn't me, moved my light on which my camera, my little cheapo camera, has been very precariously perched upon for several months now. And it moved my light, they moved my camera, and I tried for like a good 20 minutes maybe to try to get it back into an angle that works. And as you can see, I did not find one. So we're going to try out this new angle for these. Because if it's me just talking, it really doesn't matter. I opened up Stardew because I was like, oh, I can play some Stardew. I can talk about author things. And as you can see, that also didn't happen because I'm tired. My brain kind of hurts. I'm hungry. Got spaghetti here waiting for me to eat, to watch some YouTube playlist that I've probably seen 15 times. I did manage to open up that work in progress that I did back in January, that one rough draft that I just kind of started with an opening scene where this librarian character who, it's late, the library's technically closed, high fantasy, set up in the icy north, and she is, putting a book back on the shelf, and then somebody sneaks in. She can hear this person sneaking in. They're trying to sneak, and she's like, well, that's not cool. This is my domain. These are my books. Nuh-uh, no one sneaks in here. So she goes to intercept because she thinks it's like a student or like a instructor. It was a school originally, but I don't know if I still want to make it a school or just some kind of royal library place. But anyway, so she intercepts this guy. She has magic. She's not supposed to have magic. It's kind of like only very select people have magic and it's like a gift from the gods, blah, blah, blah. Well, she has magic, right? But she tries to hide it because it's a secret. And he is there for some information. And when I wrote this, I had no idea what information he was looking for, but it was going to be secret, world-changing information. It's going to change everybody's worldview. Ah. And I'm sure it's not at all inspired by the book series that I was really, really into. Oh no. The book series, book 3 is out right now. I'm reading it right now. Hold on. It's the Nightshade Crown trilogy by Hannah Witten. Here's book 3 that I'm reading right now, Nightshade God. It's really good. I loved this trilogy. I pre-ordered book 3, and it finally came, and I stopped everything I was reading to read that one. But I listened to the first 2, and I actually ran out of audiobook credits, so I bought more credits. I have never bought credits for audiobook before. I just play my whatever the Spotify charges, and that's just, I'll just wait until next month. No, I bought more credits because I needed book 2. My train of thought just went and crashed into that bowl of spaghetti down there. But I pumped this rough draft out, and it's kind of like an enemies to lovers situation, and I just kept going. And then all of a sudden, I was at the end of what could be a duology, unless I changed the ending to the rough draft, that I had. And it's like 75,000 words long, and I'm staring at it just like, what? What just happened? Because that hasn't happened to me in a while, where you just fall into a story and then you don't come up for air until you're at the end, and it's like, whoa. That one, I wrote that one, and I've tried several times to get back into it. I've just never really felt that mojo of getting back into a book. Because for me, when I work on a book, I really need to, have my teeth in the pulse of that book. I need to feel it. I need to know the characters. I need to get into the story. And I need to just be thinking about it all the time. I need to kind of be obsessed with it a little bit. And that is actually, side note, that is actually some of my favorite writing advice ever, is that in order to write a book, you need to be obsessed with it, or you need to be a little bit obsessed with it. I forget how the author originally phrased it. And this comes from when I was just kind of writing in my free time, like fan fiction, I think. Yeah, but it would have been in my fan fiction days. And there was some author that my English class went to go see during class, and I don't remember who it was. She wrote contemporary set in like the Appalachian Mountains. Don't make fun of me for how that just came out of my mouth. I know it's probably not pronounced right. It's been a long day. But she was talking about how in order to write a story, you need to be a little bit obsessed with it. And that advice has stuck with me since. And that was like 2014, 13, 10, somewhere in there. Early 2010s is when that advice was given to me. And I wasn't even like in the mindset of being like an author full time. That was not in my scope of things. And I'm pretty sure my first year of college, I think I was a pre-med major, so I wasn't even thinking about like writing books or anything. I did not go to med school. I switched my major to English before I transferred to the university. And here I am, working a job that I don't need a high school diploma for. That's not entirely true. I have one job that I don't need a diploma for, which is the job that pays my bills. But I'm also an adjunct professor, which I do need my degree for. So, I mean, I'm using it. And one day, maybe I'll be, like a full-time instructor. Or my dream job of my second dream job. My first dream job is full-time writer. My second dream job is creative writing instructor. That sounds fun. Because, like, I loved all my creative writing instructors. They were always so kooky and cool and weird in that writer way. I would fit right in. That idea that you need to be obsessed with any book that you write, 100% agree. Because any book that I have ever written, I have had to be obsessed with in order to get back into it and really think about it, to revise it over and over and over and over and over. You have to be obsessed with it. You have to love that story. You have to really know those characters, because you're going to be eyeball deep in that story for however long it takes you to get to the final draft. And that could be draft 8, 9, 10, 20, who knows? The first Stars and Bones book, I think the final draft that is published is like maybe draft 10. Granted, there was one very specific revision I did where after I had written book 2 and my publisher had looked at it, was like, some of these magic rules that you're throwing out here are really inconsistent, or they feel inconsistent. So then I had to stop and go back to book 1, which wasn't technically out yet. Or no, did they? Sorry, this is been like 2019, and my brain's kind of bleh since then. I don't know if they looked at book 2. Maybe I found the inconsistency. Well, somebody found inconsistencies, whether it was me, beta reader, publisher, somebody with the magic system. So then I had to go back to book 1 and very specifically do a revision just looking for consistencies and inconsistencies in the magic system. And that was all I did. That's all I did. I didn't touch anything else. And there was one revision, one of the later revisions we did with my publisher was specifically to cut out a chunk of words. And one was going through cutting out the scenes. And then the next one is going in and trying to smooth out any grooves that were left by those missing scenes. But in all, at least like 10 revisions, drafts, whatever. I think Heart of Stone was the one that had the least amount of drafts. That one was, oddly enough, the rough draft is the closest to the final draft of any book I've ever written. I almost said of any book I've ever written. Like, it went through the least amount of changes because it was just, oddly enough, well done in the first draft. No, I'm sure there's problems now because that was also like 2020 in there. Anyway, but I've been struggling to get back into a work in progress for months, really since like last winter. Some might say since last November. But it's just been a struggle to just find a project that works for me, that I can really get into, that I can fall into, that I can just be obsessed with. And usually it's not that hard for me. I can just pick one and like get back into it. And I love all the projects that I've done. I love all the books that I have written, all of the drafts that I have sitting on my computer. And generally, in my experience in the past 10 years of me writing seriously, it has not been that hard to pick one and fall into it. It has been incredibly difficult this past 6-7 months. And so because of that, I've not like gotten any finished drafts. I have 3 or 4 like half-baked outlines for books. I've got at least 4 rough drafts that I can think of, but none of them have really pulled me in until, that's right, until, there's an until. I finally got back into that librarian guy that wants information who's the king that killed his dad, blah blah. And I finally got back into it. And I am like more than halfway through a revision. And like in the back of my mind, all day today and yesterday, I've been thinking of like scenes that I can add, side characters who, can have their own stories. What are their stories going to be? How are they going to be involved in this whole thing? Should it be a, standalone book? If it is a standalone book, how am I going to change the ending so it doesn't, lead into book 2? Or if it's, a standalone, is that going to take away from like the seriousness of the ending that I have now? Because I really like the ending that I have now. Because if I make it a duology, then book 1 is going to end on this cliffhanger, and then book 2 is going to be them trying to figure out, how to deal with this information that has been brought to light. Because I have several side characters who have room for development. I have this mean prince, and I wrote him as kind of like the jerk villain, but then as I'm going through the second time, I'm like, he has so much potential. Think of the character development we can have. And then I have this monk who's also has all this potential for, having her worldview, shattered, and then she's gonna have to like rebuild something from the shards. And I haven't felt this way in a while. And it's exciting because this is that feeling that I'm chasing when I'm trying to work on books. This is that feeling of, what happens next? What happens next when I'm reading a story that I can't get out of? When, you're sitting at work and you're trying to, focus on, the work that you're getting paid to do, and all you can think about is what happens next? What if this character did this? What if they got locked in a room together or something, and they hate each other, then they have to get along, and they're gonna have to work together to get out, or something silly like that. This is how my brain works. Those people that have brain silence, what is that like? Sounds horrible yet peaceful at the same time. But that is what my life has been like for the past week. I've finally gotten into a work in progress without, getting halfway through and then my brain being like, well, what about this, Cinderella retelling, but she's an assassin that rough drafted. What about that one? What about this? And what about that one and this one? And I haven't done that. I've been able to really get into this book and focus on this book. And my goal is to finish the draft, finish this revision. So I will have draft 1 done. And no one's going to look at it because I don't share my first, second, or third drafts. It's usually a very much later draft that I share with anybody, whether it's beta readers, an editor, my publishers. No one looks at it until I say so because I need it to be as good as I can make it. And I need to be able to say, yes, I have gone through it. I don't see any major plot holes. The characters are consistent. I think so. And then other people can look at it. And I was on vacation last week, so I didn't get a lot of not writing. Oh my goodness, my brain. I was on vacation last week and I didn't get a lot of reading done. Different verb there. Because I thought I was going to absolutely blow through the Nightshade God over here because I devoured book 1 and 2. And I could just sit down and like fall into this book and not get up until I was done. But I am trying my best to pace myself so I don't devour it and then I have nothing left. And I'm sitting there just like, now what? What do I do? And the same thing is going for the book 2 of that Curse of the Saints book that I absolutely devoured and I loved. Book 2 is not moving as fast as book 1 did. And I wonder if it's because the Nightshade God came out and I stopped everything for it. I didn't read as much as I wanted to. I wrote a lot more than I thought I would, which was, I think, a good takeaway or a good balance, trade, bargain, whatever. But this has been a nice little writer vlog. And I have considered maybe trying to do something like this, but like live or something. If one day I have more fans, that I have fans, that one day when I might have fans, that we could just have like a nice little chit chat or like have a Discord server where it's just, we can just kind of sit and talk about the books we're reading for, I don't know, an hour on like Wednesdays or something. Fridays, we can go all get like a nice little tasty beverage and pretend like we're being social. Because I don't hate the bar experience, but I'm such an awkward person that I will make any situation super awkward. And like the more I drink, the more awkward I get. But it's just, I'm very friendly. I should probably just never leave my house. This is why I'm single. I never leave my house. I'm also really awkward. And I like books more than people. But this has been a nice little writer vlog with BB Morgan on a Wednesday night. And it is actually Wednesday. I don't usually film these on Wednesday, but I am this time. I was going to yesterday and I didn't because Tuesdays suck. I don't know why everyone wants to come in the office on Tuesday, but they do. So I hope your week is fantastic. I hope the next book you read is a 5-star read. Although if you only read 5-star reads, then none of them are special. No, I hope all of your books this year that you pick up are 5-star reads. I wouldn't wish 1-star reads on people. That's mean. That's cruel in the reader world. But thank you for joining me in this little chit chat. I tried to stay mostly on the rails and focused. If you want to stick around for more writer related vlogs, some cozy games, some book reviews maybe one day, stick around, subscribe, hang out with me when I do things like this. It's very, very exciting. It's very thrilling, one might say. But thank you for watching. I will see you in the next Writer Wednesday.